Hello again. All historical narratives are really a type of mythology. They cannot be anything else, really, because it is impossible to list every single thing which took place in the world or even in a single country or city over the course of any period of time. That is what history is, the selection of events and placing them in what seems to us to be a coherent sequence. Inevitably, in doing so, you are bound to leave out almost all the facts. Writing about, say, the Battle of Britain, it is impossible to include every single detail of the weather over that period in Europe, or the figures for industrial production in Germany as opposed to Britain, the rations of the pilots, the amount of fuel each type of aeroplane could hold, how many rounds of ammunition each fighter carried, the position of airfields, and literally millions of other aspects of the 4 months which constitute the Battle of Britain. Instead, most facts are discarded and an argument is formed automatically as it is based upon the data that is included. The same is true of all other historical events, including the Holocaust. Forbidding people from producing their own version of any sequence of historical events must in and of itself be a bad thing, for it prevents the search for truth and the possible uncovering of new insights. For instance, until the early 1960s, nobody in Britain had the least idea of the terrible carnage which took place during the Allied firebombing of the German city of Dresden. It was not until the publication in 1963 of a book called The Destruction of Dresden by David Irving that this became widely known to the average person in this country. Of course, Irving also selected his facts carefully, and a lot of subsequent research has cast doubt upon the figures which he used. But the fact remains that the bombing of Dresden was a fearful business, and it was left to an independent researcher to bring it to the public eye, to make us aware of it. Of course, David Irving's later attempts to pull a similar stunt with the Holocaust left him a ruined man, but that doesn't mean that he should have been forbidden from doing so, any more than he should have been forbidden from researching the bombing of Dresden. It is by looking at things that we think we know about and coming up with new insights to them that history is gradually revealed to people. I should make it plain, and it's probably not necessary to do so, that I adhere to the accepted historical version of the Holocaust, including the number of people murdered and the means by which they were killed and the bodies disposed of. I have little use at all for Holocaust deniers, and I'm deeply suspicious of their motives generally, which often boil down to simple anti-Semitism. Should it actually be illegal, though, to ask questions and cast doubt? Of course not. I mention this because this channel has perhaps more than its fair share of Holocaust deniers, and I do not delete their comments, however much I disagree with them. It is probably for this reason that such people come here, because on many, perhaps most other channels, the first hint of querying the Holocaust results in people being blocked and their comments removed. I read carefully what these people say, and sometimes they raise interesting points, even if they are horribly misinformed. For example, we see the wooden doors comment here pretty often, a reference to the idea that if gas chambers at some extermination camps had wooden doors, as they did, then surely the poison gas would leak out and harm the guards as well as those being killed. Of course, this comment makes no sense when once you realise that the gas used at Treblinka and Sobibor was simply carbon monoxide from an array of vehicle engines, the exhausts of which were fed into the gas chambers. Carbon monoxide is harmless enough in the open air. We can walk down the street where traffic is pumping out carbon dioxide through exhausts without collapsing and dying. It is only in enclosed spaces where it reaches lethal concentrations. I would be happy if Holocaust deniers didn't comment here, because I simply do not have the time to combat all their misconceptions, such as that about wooden doors and so on. But who knows, perhaps in time one of them might actually come up with a new insight into the subject, something which is really worth considering and discussing. I'm not personally holding my breath until this happens, but it is certainly possible, at least theoretically.